Welcome to Government Contracting Weekly, sponsored by AOC Key Solutions Incorporated. Government Contracting Weekly is the only television program devoted exclusively to the competitive and dynamic world of government contracting. A world where coming in second place is not an option, but where principle-centered winning is the only approach.
Good morning. Welcome to Government Contracting Weekly. I'm Jim McCarthy, the owner of Key Solutions and the host of this show. At Key Solutions, we've worked for over 30 years to help government contractors win their proposals. But of course, we certainly don't have a monopoly in this industry. In today's program, we pulled together 3 experts on GovCon, capture, and proposal management, not just from within Key Solutions, but also from 2 highly respected competitors. First, let's say hello to Bob Lohfeld, the CEO and General Manager of Lohfeld Consulting Group. Bob also brings more than 30 years of experience in winning contracts in the government market, as well as having a distinguished career as a top executive of several leading contractors. Good morning, Bob. Welcome to Government Contracting Weekly.
Jim, thanks.
Yeah,
great to be here.
I'm glad you're here. I really am. Next, let me introduce Brad Douglas, the Chief Operating Officer and VP of Business Development at Shipley Associates. Brad has been with Shipley for over 16 years, in addition to leadership positions with both DeVry University and the Franklin Covey Company. Good morning, Brad, and welcome to you.
Thanks, Jim. Glad to be here.
Welcome to. And of course, last but not least, my colleague, Dr. Richard Nathan, the Chief Executive Officer of AOC Key Solutions. Richard has been a wide variety of top leadership positions and has been writing proposals to the U.S. government for over 40 years. And he's also written proposals to or performed work for essentially every government agency. Richard, welcome back to Government Contracting Weekly.
Thanks, Jim.
Glad to have you here. All right, panel, as always, there's a lot of ground to cover, so let's get right to it. So, Richard, I'd like to ask you the first question. It's been said that this business is highly competitive. It's got both good sides and bad sides. What do you think is the best part about working in this industry, and maybe the worst part?
Interesting question.
Yeah.
My favorite fictional character is Sherlock Holmes. And whenever a crime had just been committed, and he had been engaged, he had this phrase that the game is afoot. And I apply that to the proposal business, because when an RFP comes and we get thrown in as part of a proposal team, it's just an intensity that is unmeasured by probably anything.
It gets the adrenaline flowing, doesn't it?
Adrenaline's flowing.
So you like that part of it. What's the reverse side? What's the toughest part?
Lack of sleep and too much pizza.
Too much pizza, is that what you said?
Yeah,
okay.
Too much pizza.
All right, well, Brad, how would you answer that question in terms of what is the easiest part maybe, and the hardest part of being in this business?
Well, I think the most rewarding part, the easiest part, funnest part, is we get into the bowels of our clients. Business development, companies live or die by that.
Yeah.
And they bring us in, we become part of the strategy, part of the solution development, and it's a rush.
So that's at least 2 adrenaline junkies here,
yeah.
It sounds like. Do we have a third?
We do.
Okay. Yeah. So what do you think the hardest part about the business is, even with adrenaline?
The hardest part is seeing so clearly what the companies need to do to win, and then watching them fall short of it, not being able to rise to the vision that you articulate.
And I would think that might be frustration on occasion would set in.
Yeah,
Huh?
you struggle with it,
Yeah.
and you know at times they make decisions that are not in their best interest, and you have to live with those as an outside consultant.
You have to live with them. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
you certainly have a great track record, Bob. So, Richard, I want to talk about what is often called, quote, the new normal. And so we all know that the government contracting sector has been in for some rough times recently. I guess I would ask the question, is this what we're seeing today, the new normal, or do you think it's ever going to bounce back to the glory days?
I think that's the wrong question, Jim. I think the question is, will there ever be a new normal again, or a normal again? And I don't think there will be.
Okay, I'll elaborate on that.
Well, technology is changing. Agencies are waking up to the fact that many of the processes they're using for procurements are outdated and do not take effective use of technology. And there's all kinds of initiatives. All you have to do is read the paper. But many of the government agencies have initiatives going, and some of the trade groups like NCMA and PSC have initiatives going to redefine how procurements are carried out, to make them leaner, more effective, and to cut down the cycle time.
Right.
So I think there's going to be a continual evolution in what we would call normal. And we're never going to see a static situation again.
Well, okay. Well, I'm pretty good at asking the wrong question, and I think you've got the right answer for it. So let me ask Brad, sort of a follow-on to that, but a lot of people are bemoaning sequestration and the shutdown and all this kind of stuff, and not a lot of people are happy with it. Could an argument, though, be made that, in fact, the sequestration and the troubles associated with that has been good for the market sector?
In some ways.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure. Companies have had to lean out. Mm-hmm. They've had to get rid of some of the overhead, some of the fat, if you will, and that can be a good thing. Mm-hmm. I think the government's had to do the same thing. The government's had to trim, they've had to reduce workforce. We are in a period of transition. So the new normal is transition and change. Mm-hmm. Change will not stop with technology, the global influence, the competitiveness going on. So I think there's a silver lining in that. You know, for the taxpayer, there's probably some savings, but for our clients, the businesses we service, it's tough.
It is tough out there.
It is very tough for them.
Yeah. But if I can add to that, though, there's another side, is those people that are getting fired, they add to the unemployment rolls, which we're see in the papers all the time. So it's hurting our economy in that way. And I'm afraid that those who are unemployed, who are the cream of the crop, are leaving government contracting and taking jobs in the private sector.
Because of the uncertainties associated with it.
And they're the most desirable. And what's left when the hiring resumes will be the people who are below average, not the people who are above average, which leads to a diminution of the quality of the services that the government ultimately will get.
In the long run, that it gets them.
So if there's a positive, and it's on the government side in maybe a couple of respects. One is we see across government a willingness and an interest in reforming federal procurement, making it better, making it more efficient, more effective, and that's a good thing. On the operational side, we see government being more receptive to change, to different ways of doing business, to more creative solutions. So those are two positives.
Silver linings is difficult, adversity, and okay, I understand that. So we have less than a minute, but I'd like to ask you guys to put on your thinking caps and look into your crystal ball. What do you think is ahead in 2015 from a GovCon standpoint? Any of you? Please.
Well, there's very few new big programs, franchise programs. A lot of this business now is going to be recompete. And to win business, you're going to have to go take it from somebody.
Okay.
And I think that's changing the landscape of the bid and proposal business, and putting more focus on capture and business intelligence.
Bob, your thoughts on that?
For us, I see the trajectory of government spending changing. Civilian agencies have been flat for a while. They will tip up in 2015. Defense will still draw down, but 2016 it'll swing back up. So by 2016,
just not riding it out in a sense.
2016 we'll be through the bottom.
Okay, well, gentlemen, we're going to pause here briefly, and when we come back, I'd like to kind of follow up on that thread and talk a little bit about proposals of the future, and again, looking into that crystal ball. Thank you.
So, did we win that government contract?
We did.
And?
And now we've got to deal with the regulatory hurdles.
Well, good luck with that.
When the government's your client, you need to play by their rules.
And the rules change more than you think.
Exactly. We need someone who's done this before. Plus, it's complicated, so we're going with BDO.
BDO?
People who know government contracting know BDO.
Working in contract management is a complex job. Creating, executing, managing contracts. It's an ever-changing world, and our members share the same challenges. At the National Contract Management Association, we know this business, gathering the best minds in our field, furthering your career by providing knowledge and training. Together, we've figured it out.
Okay, before the break, Bob had sort of put his crystal ball on to talk about the 2015 and 2016. I'm going to ask the entire group here, that is, what will future proposals look like? Since we got our crystal balls out, How do you think it's going to be different in the proposal business in 5 years than it is today? Brad, what are your thoughts?
Well, there may be more focus, some more focus on oral proposals. I don't know that for sure, but there's more video conferencing going on where they're asking contractors to demonstrate and prove their value verbally and in person. I'm concerned that there may be a trend toward cookie cutter proposals, which doesn't allow the government contractor to be creative and innovative in their solution. That concerns me. And
which
we're
in the
seeing
end
that.
is going to be to the detriment of the government and the taxpayer.
Yeah. You know, we talk about better buying power 3.0 and innovation, being new and creative. I'm concerned that if we went down that path, great, because it does promote innovation and creativity in a proposal, a response, and a capture effort. But if we backtrack and this becomes just tables and charts and checklists, then I think everyone gets hurt.
In the long run.
Yeah.
Richard, your crystal ball, what does it tell you?
Well, a lot of similarity to what Brad said. I think there's going to be a pendulum swinging back away from the IDIQs and away from LPTA, because the government presumably went that way because they want to save money, and they also wanted to improve the selection process. I think by going IDIQ, they've ruined the selection process, because in general, I realize this is a generalization, the IDIQ vehicles are too brief. Companies can't really describe their capability and their solutions to problems.
In the task orders?
And well, both. And then in the task order proposals as well. Not enough detail. So that it's difficult for the government. The government just doesn't get enough information to make an educated judgment as to who can best meet their needs.
Okay.
For us,
Bob.
Jim, I see it differently. I hope that going forward, the government will be less prescriptive about how to structure a proposal and give us in industry the latitude to present an attractive proposal that communicates visually as well as in text. And I look forward to the day when we can embed video in our proposals, eliminate the paper proposal completely, and let us make it more interactive, almost like a website experience, where a reader can link off and look at additional information if interested, or if not, stay in the main course.
Yeah, I hope so too. I hope the government goes that direction and makes this more of a business-to-business partnership relationship between the contractors and the government.
When we look at the specs we get from the government in procurements, they were all developed around this electric typewriter and word processor, and it's time to abandon
Well, in
those.
fact, I want to ask the panel this question, which is the proposal process, and I know that's a general term as well, but is it working? Is it broken? Does it need to be modernized and brought into the future? Or what do you think about the efficacy of the process right now?
When we look at proposals and the results of proposals, if you had a procurement and a dozen companies bid, you would find 4 of the dozen had terrible proposals and were not a contender. You would find another 6 were sort of in this middle mediocrity of being okay but nothing stellar, and maybe two companies would have really good proposals. What's broken in the overall process, broken in the industry, is that we as an industry produce so many just mediocre proposals, not designed to win, not geared to win.
And that's the downside of this process.
It is, yeah. And we need, because when you look at that evidence, it begs that we re-examine how we build proposals, how we direct them to win.
And I think the proposal process is such a small part of the overall business development life cycle. So there may be some breaking up of the proposal process, some challenges there. To me, what I see is bigger challenges on the front end, interfacing with the government customer, drawing out those issues, those motivators, those hot buttons, and the competitive intelligence. Our clients are not doing their homework on who else is competing. And so the proposal is a small problem. Bigger problem is to the left of the proposal.
To the left of it. So it's just part of a bigger problem that begins before the proposal ever comes out. Richard?
Part of the problem is that the common proposal process is too bureaucratic. Too many steps, too many checklists, too much paperwork. And when you have a quick turnaround, and by that I mean anything under 3-4 weeks, if you try to cram that whole process into your proposal, you'll never get done. And the important material that needs to go in there doesn't get in there. we've devised, probably others have as well, what we call an agile proposal process, which is a lot like agile software development, in which you work as collaborative teams. Reviews become less formal, and the reviews are done by experts as opposed to people with a lot of bars on their shoulders. And it's working well, and I think industry needs to move more towards that kind of a flexible process.
Okay, well, we're going to step away, and when we come back, I'd like to actually follow that thought and get your ideas on improvements and what we need to do. We'll be right back.
Hi everyone, my name is Elaine Rogers and I'm the president of the USO of Metropolitan Washington. I'd like to take the opportunity to tell you about a great holiday program we have that brings cheer and joy to the children of our local service members and their families living in the Washington-Baltimore area. Project USO Elf is a program that gives you the opportunity to be an elf to a military child during the holiday season. These gifts will be made up of toys taken from the personal wish lists of the children of our nation's military heroes. What better time to say thank you to our local service members and their families than during the holiday season? Please help us put smiles on the faces of our military children by serving as an elf this year. Registration is so easy. To learn more about Project USO Elf and other USO Metro holiday programs, visit usometro.org/holiday. Thank you for your support of our troops and their families. And from all of us at the USO of Metropolitan Washington, happy holidays.
Okay, we're back now. I'd just like to pick up the subject maybe of myths, mythbusters. And by that I mean, are there some commonly held beliefs in this industry that you gentlemen have come to believe are not really true, not really accurate? Bob, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, the one we hear all the time is the customer loves us. and you know, that's the biggest myth in Washington. When you look at the real statistics and you ask the customer about the contractor, 10% of them they hate. 80% they're indifferent to, and maybe 10% they really go to bat for.
So the notion that they're looking for a reason to award it to us is probably not a good
it's
one.
really not
That's
a
your
good
myth.
foundation for going forward.
That's not a good strategy.
Yeah.
Brad, what myth would you like to bust?
I'd like to bust the myth of the incumbent has the advantage. It's not so anymore. It is not so anymore. So recompetes, if we're the incumbent and we get lazy and we take shortcuts and we assume things that the customer loves us, don't bank on it.
That's called incumbentitis.
Exactly.
People say that. Okay,
The
so
incumbent
incumbency is
not
not necessarily an advantage in the day. Your myth, Richard.
That the best qualified offerer wins. I find that's generally not the case.
Really?
The winner is the person who did the best capture, developed the best solution or the most relevant solution to what the government is looking for, and writes the best proposal. They are not necessarily the most qualified.
I see.
Yeah, we see that a fair amount, that an incumbent's really well liked, one of the rare ones that is, and they're unable to achieve a great proposal, and they lose because of it.
Is that a weakness of the government for not being able to pick the best solution, or is it a weakness on industry side not being able to communicate it?
It's both.
Kind of both.
I think the processes are broken on both sides.
Okay.
The government selection process is broken, but hopefully we'll get better. And I think that companies don't know how to compete. And that's where we help them.
Yeah.
When you talk about the qualifications of an offer and so on, this discussion often then turns to past performance. And I guess I'd like to ask this question: is past performance, meaning in the past, really a good indicator of future ability to perform? And is it possible to game past performance to a competitive advantage, if you will? Anyone, really? Anyone?
In the Alliant procurement, it was all about past performance. And what I found unfortunate about that procurement is it didn't ask companies, what can you do going forward? Where are you in the next wave of technology? How are you going to play there? It was totally a retrospective procurement.
It was all looking
about past
mirror.
performance,
Yeah.
and it shouldn't be. That's only a partial indicator
Right.
of future performance.
Well, how's past performance gained? I mean, what do we have to watch out for? How do we have to adjust that? Any idea?
Well, it's the government's got to use metrics. I mean, you can't game measurement and metrics. And so to the extent that the government is requiring past performance metrics, it's valuable, but I don't believe past performance is a good indicator of future ability. The acceleration of technology and everything becoming a commodity and the easy copycat solutions, I think the government needs to be very careful on putting too much emphasis on past performance.
I see. Okay, Richard.
Well, past performance is of a company generally. And in these large companies, most of the company is not associated with the new program. There are people that are associated with the new program that they're going to provide. So I think the past performance should be tied to the key personnel or the first couple of levels of management that are being proposed, because they're the ones who are going to deliver to the government.
Okay. So that's the way we have to be on guard against that. Right. Whose past performance are we talking about, essentially? Okay. Well, we've come to that portion of the show now where we sort of say the final thoughts, the final takeaways. Let me ask you a question, Bob. If you had to leave one message to the audience, what would it be?
Well, Brad touched on it earlier when you said creating a winning proposal is to the left of the RFP. It all begins with capture, and we tell all of our clients capture needs to be a defined, repeatable, managed, measured, and optimized process.
Okay,
and if they follow that prescription, they will build a win early on in the game and be ahead of the competition.
Okay. So Brad, your one thought?
My one thought is the buyer, the customer, knows way more about us than we think they do.
What do you mean by that?
Social media, the past performance records, the CPAR, all of the available information that's out there, you can't fool anyone anymore. And so in our proposals, in our capture, in our win strategies, we've got to be on cue and on target with everything else that's out there about us.
Okay, Richard, in less than 30 seconds, what's your one thought?
Don't get mired in the past. Think about where your prospective customer wants to be in 5 years and 10 years, and in your proposal, show them how you're going to get them there.
Okay, gentlemen, we're going to take another break now. We'll be right back. It's no surprise to any of you that social media has impacted virtually every aspect of our personal lives. Sure, you can say there are both pluses and minuses, but this is the world we live in, and absent a move to a deserted island, there's no getting around it. What is surprising, though, is how some in the government contracting community have not yet fully embraced social media as a business strategy, not only to advance your brand, but also to help win and retain business with your federal customers. At Key Solutions, we believe that social media has to be an integral part of your business development plan. We also believe that while this technology is advancing like a high-speed train, you can either jump on board or watch your competition leave you in the dust. If you are a federal contractor looking to integrate a social media strategy into your business, we will be able to help you. Contact us at AOCKeysolutions.com.
AFCEA has been bringing government and industry together since 1946. By joining AFCEA, you will reach the decision makers and become part of the discussion. You'll increase market visibility, gain market insight, receive discounts on AFCEA member services and events, and manage and engage corporate associates. AFCEA is the association of choice. Join today at www.afcea.org.
We've been discussing with our panel various aspects of GovCon capture and proposal management, but we never want to forget that this should always be done with the confines of what we call principle-centered winning. And so before we wrap up today's program, I'd like our audience to see a message I recently recorded, which I call the 10 Commandments of Principle-Centered Winning. Let's take a quick look. Good morning. Regular viewers of our show have heard us talk about Key Solutions and its approach to principle-centered winning. I'd like to share with you 10 doctrines, commandments of principle-centered winning as applied to the art of proposals. First commandment, thou shalt not speak evil of thy customer nor shall thou dismiss, underrate, or speak evil of thy competitor. Second commandment, thou shalt not write or do anything thou wouldst not want to see on page 1 of the Washington Post above the fold. Third commandment, thou shalt not speak evil of thy teammate, nor shalt thou badmouth thy proposal. Fourth commandment, thou shalt not be complacent about thy chances of winning. Fifth commandment, thou shalt not brag, boast, or arrogantly conduct thyself in the presence of others. Commandment number 6, thou shalt not enter into any agreement that does not represent a win-win for all parties involved in the proposal effort. Seventh commandment, thou shalt not discourage thy neighbor in the next cubicle, nor shalt thou whine, gossip, nitpick, complain, or mutter against thy teammate on a proposal. Eighth commandment, thou shalt not break a commitment to thy proposal manager, teammate, or employer. Ninth commandment, thou shalt not presume to know everything, nor to have all the answers. Instead, thou shalt listen to others, be tempered in thy opinions, and respect and learn from thy neighbor. And finally, 10th commandment, thou shalt not put thine interest ahead of thy customers. So there you have it, the 10 commandments of principle-centered winning. Of course, there's more to principle-centered winning than the shalt nots. But to learn how you can apply these tenets to improve your company's win probability, please contact us at AOCKeySolutions.com. I'd like to thank our outstanding panel for joining me today. Let's start with Bob Lohfeld, the CEO and General Manager of the Lohfeld Consulting Group. Thank you, Bob. Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure to be on your show. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. I appreciate it. And next, Brad Douglas, the Chief Operating Officer and Vice President of Business Development at Shipley Associates. Thank you as well, Brad.
Thank you, Jim.
Glad to have you here. And then last but not least, Dr. Richard Nathan, the CEO of AOC Key Solutions. Richard, as always, it's been a pleasure to work with you, so thank you very much.
Happy to be here.
But most importantly, I want to thank you, our viewers, for once again making Government Contracting Weekly a regular part of your learning regimen. And now, on behalf of all my colleagues at Key Solutions, I'm Jim McCarthy, and I'll see you next week.
You've been watching Government Contracting Weekly, sponsored each week by AOC Key Solutions Incorporated. Government Contracting Weekly is the only television program devoted exclusively to the competitive and dynamic world of government contracting. For additional information, comments, questions, or suggestions, please write us at governmentcontractingweekly.com.